Broadcasting worldwide from the beautiful hill country in Texas, this is OneRadioNetwork.com. Well, a very pleasant good morning to you. What's up, Doc? It is June 24. Man, just flying by. Yes, it is. It's the real world of money this morning. Welcome, Patrick, Tim Pone, and Andrew-Gause. He's a currency historian. He's a nationally recognized one at that. He's working on his third book. First book is The Real World of Money. Second book's Uncle Sam Cooks the Books. And the new one, yet to be named, but it's coming out sometime. And if you'd like to be on the show, it would be 888-663-6386. That's 888-663-6386. Email Patrick at OneRadioNetwork.com. Richard Massey, Meridian Grace tomorrow, open phone Friday. Good morning, Mr. G. What's up, Doc?
Good morning. Good morning.
What's
Everything's
happening?
great. Hey, upright, taking nourishment. Banana, sulfur.
Banana and sulfur for breakfast? Well, that's a breakfast of champions for sure. You get your potassium and your sulfur.
Yeah, now I have to ask Patrick if it's okay to dip the banana in the sulfur.
Whatever you want, kid. It's just up to you. It's your body. You can cry if you want to. That's hilarious. Can we dip the... Yeah, I think we got your staff. I see orders from your staff in Hilton Head come in all the time for the sulfur.
Yeah, goodness, sure.
So you've just been passing it around.
Oh, yeah, no.
That's good.
Great for the HR.
HR? Mm-hmm. What's HR?
Human resources.
Oh, human resources. I don't know. So are you eating...
Forgive me, I'm done. Patrick McGinn suggested that I look at days off.
Oh, that wants people on the sulfur.
Yeah, you go from before to after and see what it does. Talk about a health benefit. If you're an employer and you
just
want
take your sulfur so you go to work.
You want to do the best for your employees, get yourself some 9-pound boxes of sulfur and leave them laying around the office.
That's right. They say, hey, what is this?
What's this stuff?
Can I have some of this?
Can I try this?
Can I have some of this? Well, I think a fun story would be this, because we love history, and you're working on your third book, and you are quite an historian. So here's the deal. Jack Lew, you know what I'm going.
I know Jack.
You know Jack. Jack Lew, who is I don't know what he is. He's the Secretary of the Treasury. He's suggesting that we really need a woman's picture on the $10 bill.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Lady Gaga, I'm thinking.
Either or Natalie Portman. I'm thinking Natalie Portman. I mean, she'd be cool. Anyway, so I've seen this picture of some really pretty girls. Has been a girl picked yet, or who?
No, it's 2020. We're talking about, but it's great election year.
I see.
Right.
So the real story is that then right away, Bernanke comes out, and he says, "Oh no. He said Hamilton." Who's on the 10 now?
That's right.
Alexander Hamilton.
Oh, we got to protect him.
He played a leading role in creating U.S. monetary and financial institutions.
Yeah.
He founded the first major bank, the Bank of New York, and as Chernow points out in his book that Bernanke loves, which is just whatever. Yeah. And the 1791 report on the mint set the basis for the U.S. currency arrangements, which makes his demotion from the $10 bill all the more ironic. Importantly, over the objections of Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, Hamilton also oversaw the chartering of the 1791 First Bank of the United States, which is to serve as a central bank and would be the precursor to the Federal Reserve System.
That's right. Sold us into slavery.
Now, this is the part you're going to love. He says, well, if you're going to take somebody off, Take Jefferson. Take Jackson off.
Oh, Jackson off.
And so Jackson is the guy
that killed.
Okay, tell folks what's going on. I mean, Ben Bernanke, he just loves the Federal Reserve System.
Oh, yes, he does.
Right.
Yeah. So Alexander Hamilton, of course, in a corrupt bargain.
In a corrupt bargain?
I am absolutely. Well, I'm going to, again, spell it all out in this new book, Monetary History of the United States. I'll put my theories forward. But essentially used his position to obtain not only the charter for the Bank of New York, the first privately owned bank in the United States, but also for the first bank of the United States, which, while it was owned by the government, most of it was owned by the government. The other half was owned by Alexander's nefarious friends, folks that he got interested in the scheme. And in doing so, essentially had the people that we won our freedom from as now investors in our nation's central bank.
Oh, good. So you win the war from the Queen and the whoever,
right?
And then you go back to them and say, why don't you guys invest in this bank?
Yes,
and control the money supply.
That's right.
Oh.
And if you know,
that's what I would have done.
If you control the money supply, you control the country. You don't really need troops. We just need a good, strong bank.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody made a lot of money for a few years. In fact,
who's everybody?
Everybody. The country.
The country.
The British investors.
Yes.
And all of the merchant class in the United States.
But before you continue, to Alexander's defense, maybe he was such a good business guy that he needed this British money. Otherwise, he couldn't have done the deal.
Right.
Is that true?
Well, that argument has been made, and it's a very cogent one.
Is it a cogent one?
Well, obviously, they had the money, the British Empire.
Obviously. They had all the money, right?
But at the same time, we had a system of credit in the United States that was unique on the globe. So while Alexander Hamilton may take credit for the first bank of the United States, that was, again...
1791.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Way back in 1740, Samuel Adams' father, the Reverend Samuel Adams, established a land bank where a dirt poor farmer could go into the bank and say, okay, I have this 640 acres and a mule. Will you loan me 10 cents an acre?
Mm-hmm.
And if they do, then the land becomes the basis for the loan. The bank loans him enough money to go and buy seed, plant the crops. Then when the crop comes in, he pays back the bank. The note is extinguished. The money's extinguished. End of story. No one profits.
Land bank.
Mm-hmm.
Is that similar to what, I don't want to get too off track, but similar to what North Dakota does?
No.
Okay, that's different.
Haven't had a land bank. I mean, the closest thing we have would be Fannie Mae.
Okay.
Except that they deal with securities, but at any rate,
in
those days, the land bank was sort of, in my view, the first bank of the United States. And then the colonial issued money, not worth a continental, is what we all know.
See?
Because the Congress lacked the authority to tax, so it had no revenue. And with no revenue, how could it have any hope of paying off its notes? So it was a flawed system. Hamilton takes credit because he chose this system of slavery, in my opinion. If your money's a slave, you're a slave. That's it. And so, his idea was that we put all of the government's gold in the Bank of the United States.
Yeah.
And then we issue United States banknotes to conduct commerce. Well, of course, he and his friends took the first issue and went out and bought anything that looked like a manufacturing base in the United States where the real wealth was created.
With newly created money.
The notes that he controlled, exactly.
Well, yeah.
So, you're the guy that says, okay, all the deposits of the government
are going to go here.
Right, and then the notes are going to come out of this bank. Well, great, but who gets to control the flow of the notes? Oh, you and your friends. Isn't that a coincidence? And so for the first 20 years, while it's true the revenue, the profits that the government share paid for a lot of stuff, a lot of internal improvements, but by 1808, they had grown so greedy that they convinced the government, you should sell your shares.
Really?
And yes, in the first bank of the United States to us.
Wait. If this thing was a good deal and people were making money for 20 years, why would the USG sell their shares?
We had the best Congress money could buy.
Way back then.
Yeah.
200 years ago.
Yeah. Oh. Look at the movie Lincoln, and you'll see the lobbyists, and how they gathered in the lobby and waited for the legislators to come out and then sprung on them, with all their corruption schemes. That was certainly in place at the time. And so the moneyed interests that owned the rest of the First Bank of the United States sent their agents forward to buy the votes of the congressmen who would decide, we don't need this First Bank of the United States. We don't need the revenue. We'll take this lump sum of money, and you guys can own it. And so from 1808 until 1812, now without the government as a partner, talk about wide open. Now they didn't have to split their profits with the government. Now they pulled out all the stops. and enrich themselves in ways that no one could imagine. And so by 1812, Congress saw what was going on and said, okay, that's it.
You're done. We want it back.
Yeah, we're just going to cancel the charter. Yeah. Boom, done. Well, with that, what do you know?
There was a war around that time.
Oh, yeah. The British suddenly, when our rumbling started
That's
in
amazing.
1810, 1811, the behind the scenes already it was being said, hey, look, you guys, look what you're doing here. Come on, cut it out. You're being too greedy, and we're not going to renew this charter. And so to flex their muscle and show their power, the British Navy started boarding American ships and walking around on deck, like a bully would do.
Just
right?
kind of,
just in case you think you can do whatever you want over there. We're going to do this over here. Now, what are you going to do? So, this back and forth, and many historians will point to this. Oh, well, that's the reason we went to war. Really? What's the reason that the British decided to suddenly start boarding our ships and taking off guys that saying, oh, no, you're a British citizen? Yeah.
Because they were going to, the United States Congress was going to cancel the charter of the first bank of the United States.
That's right. And the British made it clear, you mess with us, you're going to have more problems than you can deal with. And, this type of overt and covert pressure.
The people, Andrew, invested in this bank from England had enough power.
Of course.
And they were in on the game so much that they could wield the ships to start doing what they did.
Oh yeah, they call up their buddies at the ministry. That's how an oligarch works, right? The king and all of his ministers, and they're all rich and wealthy and to-do. And so, Lord Fairfax has a problem with this, so we have to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And they dealt with it with their military. We've done the same thing in the 20th and 21st century now, right?
Sure.
Where we've used our military to further business interest. Did I just say that?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Andrew-Gause said it, not me.
So the British were not above using their military to reinforce their business interests. And in 1812, the first Bank of the United States charter expired and was not renewed. With that, the British attacked. They looted Washington, burned the buildings.
Burned the White House, right?
Yeah. Dolly Madison and her cohorts were scooping up the precious documents of the nation's founding and running from town.
Dark days.
Yeah, dark days.
Dark days in the United States.
And we certainly didn't have a military to speak of. We provided virtually no resistance. If it wasn't for the weather, the British would have won. But so for some reason, they decided to turn around and go home.
Because?
Well, I don't know.
You do know.
They felt they got their message across, I guess the official historical line. Why after you've now... So revolution was 20 years before. Now you've come back to your colonies. You've looted the capital city. You've chased off the government in exile now. You've captured their most important flag. That's it, right? Don't you own the country then? Kind of like you're in Baghdad,
Yeah, it's kind of like it's ours. Man.
It's ours now.
Yeah, it's ours.
And so they chased the American government into the countryside, and rather than reestablish the British flag, they turned around and went home. Now, curiously, at that same time, we decided, well, maybe we were a little hasty, and maybe we'll grant the second charter for the second Bank of the United States. Maybe we were a bit hasty. So in 1814, we decided, okay, we'll grant the second Bank of the United States a charter. And now for 20 years, that bank operated like they took it. You know what I mean? Like when you force somebody to do something and they know it's against their best interest, but you force them to do it and they do it, and then you just take advantage at that point. Because the second bank made the first bank look like a kindergarten. They decided who got loans and who didn't get loans and who they promoted and who they didn't promote. And even worse, they could actually hurt you if you were a merchant and they didn't like your policies, or whether you were associated with the right party, or whether you were politically correct, or whether you liked the particular flag or not. And, they would just put that pressure openly as a bank. Imagine your bank decides to make your mind right. That's not very good. And for the folks that were on the snubbing end of the second Bank of the United States, they felt that they needed to take that monopoly power from those people, and the hero arose in the form of Andrew Jackson. In
what year? 1830?
Yeah, he was around in the 20s.
Yeah.
So, congressman from Tennessee.
So the second bank charter was going to come up, and then Andrew ran for president and said that he was going to take back the bank.
He'd kill it.
Yeah, he'd kill it.
He'll kill it. Vote for me and I'll kill that bank. If you want that bank, don't vote for me because I'm going to kill it. That was his campaign entire...
And he won.
Yeah, he won.
Yeah. Then they shot him.
Well, no. He had been...
They tried to shoot him.
Yeah, throughout his life. He was a rather rough and tumble guy. You know, the history...
They were shooting him
all the time. He was, duels in those days, you know, that was the way to settle your dispute. You know, like two gentlemen. Here, you get a pistol, I get a pistol. We'll go out in the field and we'll see which one. Yeah, we'll see which one of us is correct.
It's crazy.
And you know, I mean, I must say, in those days, people were very careful what they said about others and how they conducted their affairs. But you know, Jackson was quick to defend his honor, and he did so many times. And then, of course, once he became a prominent politician and started railing against the moneyed class, now he had made an enemy for life, and there were many attempts on his life. Yeah. In fact, he died with a great bit of lead in his body.
Really? Yeah, so did a hair analysis and then a lot of lead.
A lot of lead. And some miraculous events occurred during the presidency of Andrew Jackson. So he killed the bank, the second bank of the United States, and for that, he is hated and despised by the banker class today.
And so it's not surprising that Ben Bernanke, monetarist, Keynesian guy.
Oh, goodness,
you know,
believes in
this
elastic
system,
monetary system.
Owned by the private
loves
people.
Fractional reserve banking, thinks it's the greatest thing ever. You know, the ability to mobilize and monetize future productivity without the knowledge of the producers, incidentally. It's not like, oh, are you going to vote to let us create the money to represent your next 10 years of tax payments and spend them today? Oh, you don't think we should do that? Well, too bad. We're not going to ask you. And they just do it anyway.
Andrew-Gause, Patrick Timpone, a little bit of history there on the whole $10 Hamilton thing, Bill. Picked up, well, my third cousin, Jeremy, is also a monetary historian, and had dinner with him last night. I got a little tape here.
1637, 1797, 1819, 37, 57, 84, 1901, 07, 29, 1937, 1974, 1987. Jesus, didn't that f*** me up good? 92, 97, 2000, and whatever we want to call this. It's all just the same thing over and over. We can't help ourselves.
Previously with Stephen Hewer on One World Whey and why vegetarians and vegans should try this raw, grass-fed whey protein.
This is what gets down to amino acid science. People don't realize this, and this is why the vegans are typically failing to thrive, is because even though they're getting the essential amino acids in their diet from their grain and legume and whatever sources they're trying to rely upon, spirulina, whatever, they're not getting a rich enough array and a large enough quantity, and frequently these amino acids are bound to cellulose, and the human digestive tract has no cellulase, the enzyme needed to digest cellulose, so the rate at which you can get access to the amino acids from a vegetarian pea protein or rice protein is so slow that you never attain what's called a positive nitrogen balance. You never attain enough amino acids in your bloodstream to cause your body to go, oh, I'm going to go gangbusters on creating new muscle, new organ, new brain tissue, whatever tissue it wants to. Instead, it's just a slow leak into the bloodstream so that people are making mostly glucose out of their amino acids as opposed to new protein structures. And that's the problem with vegetarian protein powders like hemp and all that, is they do not provide you the enough to get into a positive nitrogen balance.
Well, we'll see. The proof's always in the pudding. Sounds like a compelling argument for vegans and vegetarians to try One World Whey. Click and order right on the front page of OneRadioNetwork.com.
In 1981, SDL began its evolution to become a new kind of coin company, dedicated to education and hand-selected rarities. SDL has become a model for rare coin companies all over the United States, often imitated but never duplicated. SDL Inc. remains dedicated to provide only top-quality numismatics to novice and expert investors alike. Find out why so many investors accumulate their high-quality gold and silver coins from SDL Incorporated. SDLUSGoldCoins.com. 1-800-878-2646.
I read where after the GDP numbers came out, which we'll talk about this morning, that somebody sold about $500 million worth of notional gold, and gold took a pounce this morning, but it's coming back up. We'll talk about it. Gold is down $5, $11.73. Silver's even $15.95. The dollar is even at 95.37. Crude oil is up about 28 cents. With the direction of dear Sharon and Patrick, we come up with these products, and we really are getting quite a nice array of products in our store. And you can visit our store. On the top right, you see a little thing that says store. Really some nice products. Most of them go through Amazon, but you just click an order, and you'll see some really cool things there. You know, the turmeric from Christian Wild that we talked about. This is really an amazing turmeric. The aloe ferox, which today I still take that from time to time. And the bioestin Hawaiian astaxanthin. Boy, it's a good fun thing. The Camu vitamin C, the 100% pure pine gum spirits, and all the ones that you know already. We have some optimal liposomal vitamin C, which is really good. Then the machines to make your own vitamin C. Mega Hydrate, bring more hydrogen into your body from Patrick Flanagan. Sodium ascorbate, our favorite vitamin C. If you're going to take that, some really fun lotus food, gluten-free rice ramen, or on and on. Our favorite olive oil, Barani, or something, however you pronounce it. Some fun things for the dogs, and on and on and on. So if if you're shopping around looking for something good, fun stuff to eat, or for your animals, milk thistle there, the best one ever, the Eclectic Institute. 2 of these caps a day will keep your lover happy for the rest of your life. And the gelatin, the green can, Great Lakes Gelatin. All these products in our store on OneRadioNetwork.com.
We are listener-supported. One Radio Network. Talk to Patrick now. 888-663-6386. Or email patrick@oneradionetwork.com.
With Andrew Gause, currency historian, nationally recognized expert on the United States monetary system. Well, I think Hillary Clinton should be on the $10 bill. What do you think?
Yeah, I see where you're going there.
Yeah, let's not go there. I just had
Yeah, that would be a good time to talk about a woman on money.
That's probably a lack of sulfur where I came up with that. It's 24 minutes after the hour, and it's the Real World of Money for June 24, 2015. June 24, 2015. Well, Donald Trump is in. He is the right now he's polling number 2 in New Hampshire, and we're going to have some tape from Donald, and we'll see what Andrew thinks about some of his programs he's offering. Let's talk about Greece. Let's do an email, and maybe we can start it that way. Breaking news from an emailer says, here's the latest about Greece. Greece has rejected the latest sure deal, either Greece cave or it's Grexit. Does Andy believe that the BIS will intervene? Greece has refused to increase their VAT taxes and to cut pensions, buying the IMS what they want. Anything new here? It's all the same.
Same.
Kick it down the road, and something's going to happen.
Maybe.
Yeah. You don't. So now we're to maybe, but you.
Oh no, maybe something will happen. Maybe nothing will happen. Maybe we'll just keep kicking it down the road.
How long can you do that?
How long?
Yeah, what does it matter, right?
Yeah. Again, were they going to run out of zeros?
Well, what does it matter?
They got a whole bucket of zeros in a vault, and they're ready to put them out there. So. But
isn't it kind of like?
I'd worry more about the Ukraine than Greece.
Really? Okay?
Or Puerto Rico. Yeah. I mean,
Well, I guess Greece is just the chosen child to write about.
Tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Tip of the iceberg, man. What about Grenada?
See, well, I don't know anything about these things.
Well, Grenada put in a 50-cent haircut. 50%.
What do you mean?
On anyone holding bonds.
Really?
Yeah.
So if you had a Grenada bond, they cut them in half?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Ecuador, they defaulted, right? 2014.
Yeah, Ecuador went down 2014. Puerto Rico's about to go bite the biscuit, right?
72 billion.
Yeah.
It's getting ugly there.
Uh-huh.
And, this is something that could affect us quickly.
What's that?
Puerto Rico, obviously.
Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wouldn't... I would say that Greece is just the tip of the iceberg, and everything that they can do to make this a non-default, they will do, even up to and including calling a default something else.
They'll just give it a new name.
It's not a default, it's a lampshade. And see, it's okay. They can lampshade all they want, but they can't default. So we're just going to keep talking while they lampshade.
So is the fact that the people that Greece owes the money to, they can withstand Greece not making the payments because they created the money?
The IMF, the ECB.
Yeah, I mean,
the bigger risk. I don't think anyone talks about this. So the typical Grecian person.
Yeah,
right. The typical Greek.
Grecian. He's a Grecian person.
He's a Greek. He goes to the bank and he takes his damn money out. That's it.
Oh, and that's been going out, every day.
It's been going out. Where's that money coming from?
I don't know.
The ECB.
Oh.
Yeah. So the ECB is saying, okay, Greeks, go ahead and take your money out of the bank. We'll print euro and give it to your bank because they're broke. The Greek banks are broke. So, I mean, $80 billion ago, the Greek banks were broke. And the ECB has just continued to create, print, give it to the Greek banks, give it to the Greek banks. So the bank runs, the result of the bank runs has not been felt. So more importantly, whether or not they pay back the money is irrelevant. The ECB has already given them another $80 billion on top of everything they owe the IMF.
That's like your mortgage company just sending you a check every month.
While they yell at you for not paying your mortgage.
Yeah, that's right. They're yelling at you for not paying your mortgage, but here's $5,000. They'll take care of you for a couple months.
Here, go ahead, pay your bills. Now you're going to have to pay this mortgage. Here's another $5,000. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
I was like,
so that's what's going on.
Yeah, and it's surprising to me because the real problem, as I see it, is in these bank runs.
The bank runs.
Yeah.
But what does the ECB care if they're, Andrew, printing the money and just loading up the ATM machines?
Precisely.
I mean, it's not a big deal to them. You guys just take this funny money. What do they care?
Yeah.
Boy, you talk about slavery.
Yeah. There's a amortization schedule out there if you want to check it out,
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, it's
up to 50 years or something?
Yeah. I mean, you could see for yourself that they're buried up to their eyeballs.
Yeah.
And, they've got the IMF payments, of course, by the end of June.
Sure.
And then they have the bills that they have to pay, like 3.6 to the ECB. Then, government bonds coming due all through August. Another 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
By the end, 12 billion by the end of September. So, whatever billion, 2 or 3 or 4 they owe the IMF is chump change. It's peanuts.
Yeah. So they got into this situation by being raging socialists.
Oh, yes.
People get to retire in
whenever
Greece.
they want.
I think they're like 45 or something, and then they get lots of money a month.
Oh, yeah.
How do you do that? I mean, you don't do that. So it just caught up with them.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. The imbalance that many of us are starting to recognize is happening here in the United States.
With Social Security.
Well, with when this all was presented and portrayed, we had 5 people working for every one retiree.
Yes.
American 34. And then by the 50s, that number had gone the other way a little bit. We were still at 3 to 1, 3 and change to 1, because of the baby boom. But then that sort of fell off.
Yeah.
And, parents are not even having enough kids to cover themselves.
Right, yeah. So people just aren't having kids.
Yeah, they're not having 6 kids. If you have 6 kids and there's 2 of you, well, okay, then you got 3 people working for every person by the time you're ready to retire and they're of working age. But the reverse is true, 2 parents having 1 child. And so now that 1 child has to effectively pay for the retirement of 2 people. Why? Well, because just like Greece, the United States has spent all of the money that its citizens have put away to pay for their own retirement.
They spent it all.
They spent it, yeah.
They start doing that as a timeline back in the Johnson administration.
67,
67, right?
Yeah, so we have all this money laying around that we're not going to have to pay out till 1997. Where do we do with it? What do we do with it? Well, let's borrow it. And boy, did they borrow it. And they borrowed and they borrowed. And right through the biggest tax increase in history in 1986. Tefra, on post Ronald Reagan, that was Alan Greenspan, who said, hey, if we don't raise payroll taxes now, by the time we reach 2010, 2011, there are going to be more people retired than there are working, and we're not going to be able to afford to pay them. So we need to start putting away money now. And boy, did we put it away. $4.1 trillion at last count. $4.1 trillion that was put aside by the American working public and its employer. So 15% of payroll, every payroll dollar, 15% for the last, 35 years?
Yeah.
And they borrowed every penny of it and spent every penny of it, just like the Greeks did. And so now what do? Well, you can't pay it back. So you either take away the benefit or default. That's really your only choice.
So that's what the IMF and ECB and the boys want them to do, is to raise the retirement rate.
Take away the benefit.
Cut the pensions.
Yeah.
And the Greek people, they'll just be in the streets, man, burning the place down.
Oh, sure they will, because, they're used to...
They're used to it.
Yeah.
They're planning on it. They're counting on it.
Here in the United States, we're used to, we don't have a very efficient public transportation system. If you want to get somewhere, well, get there. Go to some private company.
Uber.
Yeah, Uber your way there.
Uber your way there.
But, in Europe, they have grown to expect that the government will be responsible for moving you from place to place.
Sure, yeah.
So, public transit owned by the government, telephone, electric company, water company, all these are socialist enterprises that don't operate for a profit. They provide a service to the people.
Oh, I see. Yeah, and so they all lose money.
Well, sure they lose money.
Yeah, of course. Can you imagine a transit system run by the government?
Well, they certainly don't make money. I'll put it that way.
They don't make money. Yeah.
Folks work there and are able to retire with nice pensions and don't have to work too hard while they are working.
But on the other side of the ledger, taxes are very high in EU as well, overall.
In Greece?
Aren't they?
Well...
compared to here, in Sweden, Norway, France, and all that.
Yeah, you pay for that.
You really pay for all that stuff.
Yeah,
but of course the politicians blow it. So
well, and what we do here in the United States, what we've put into place is a system of choking the life and the money out of you, because if you're left to your own devices, you might fudge here and there.
Yeah, you're just going to hurt yourself.
Yeah, so we're going to put in place electronic transfers of money. We're going to make everyone use debit and credit cards, and in this way, we'll have I love Donna Shalala, remember her?
Donna Shalala.
An auditable trail of every single transaction.
Single transaction.
That's great. So now with this auditable trail of every single transaction, it's very easy to implement draconian tax policy.
Yeah, because they'll just take it.
Yeah.
And they know every penny.
See it, they take it, they know every penny. That's not a problem.
Boom.
Here's the bill. This is what we took out of your account. Whereas in Greece, tax evasion has become a pastime. It's like a hobby. Folks sit around thinking of ways to
not to pay taxes,
defeat the tax system.
Right.
And so the IMF and the ECB are forcing them to choke the people a little more. Hey, you're going to have to step up the enforcement here. You're going to have to hire some revenue agents to go out and eat the substance out of your people to pay for all of this. And the Greeks are very reluctant to do so.
There really is no strategy or plan when they formed this euro, thanks to Goldman Sachs, help them do it.
Brought to you by Goldman
Sachs. To have people get out. They really didn't plan.
There is no out.
There is no out. Oh, it's kind of out. Oh, I see. It's kind of like here in the United States.
Yeah, let me remind you.
You're not going anywhere.
Abraham Lincoln will explain your out to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead out.
Go ahead out. Yeah, like the South wanted out.
Like South Carolina.
And then
you in South Carolina want out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then he bombed Charlotte, right?
Yeah, no problem.
Whatever, no problem.
Yeah, go ahead.
You want out?
You want out? Yeah, we'll see you in a minute.
Now, we're going to do this war. I don't know.
Of course, the economic hitmen might show up first. And whatever, you can imagine. So let me paint the scenario. Greece is down on the mat, and the emergency guys get together. Okay, we're out of the euro. We're making this announcement today. We're out.
We're getting out.
What's our backup currency?
Drachma.
We're going to the drachma. Okay, let's start the drachma tomorrow, and then that same day, guys like George Soros show up and say, "Ooh, there's no strength in this drachma.
I'll just buy them all.
I'm just going to sell the whole thing short.
Sell them short.
I'm just going to sell them
And he
short.
could drive the price of the drachma
oh my God,
in the
to
toilet.
nothing.
To
So it's like every time Greece tries to get up off the mat, one of those kind of guys is there to punch him in the face and put him back down.
Wow.
And it would be impossible. I can't. Is there a stronger word than impossible?
Impossible. No?
Impossible. Unless they want to go to war, then, okay.
It would come to that.
Yeah,
and that's all they could do.
Absolutely.
That's all they could do.
Yeah.
That's all they could do.
Go to war.
So, well, I guess the only caveat to this would be, hypothetically, and they don't have it, but hypothetically, if Greece had billions and trillions of dollars in gold,
well, they could set up a gold
then they could set up a gold
currency.
and silver-backed currency that George Soros couldn't invade,
but
they don't have the gold.
God help them the first time they issue a note against the gold and silver, because they'll be called immediately into question. Those notes will be immediately shorted, as though.
Oh, so even if you have a gold-backed currency,
they
the currency raiders could short it.
Because they fudge. So for the world, we say, okay, here we are. We have this vault. We're going to issue these 20 million euro gold coins, and they're right here in the vault. Now we're going to issue these notes to represent those gold coins. Immediately, the gold coins will be out of the vault. Immediately.
Yeah. So the only way Greece, are you saying the only way Greece, wait a minute, this could be a commercial.
They'll just withdraw all their money.
This could be a commercial. The only way that Greece could really do it, are you saying that they would have gold and silver coin?
Yeah.
Use that as money. And nobody could mess with that.
Well, except by taking it.
They
would swarm into the country.
But how would they buy stuff?
I'm sorry, how would who buy stuff?
How would they buy Texas beef?
Who?
Greece.
With gold.
Oh, good. That gets a little sticky doing that over
a little bit.
Doing over a Fed wire.
Yeah, you go back to the days of traction, and friction in monetary transactions, which is what the Russians were facing.
Sure.
And so, what do you do then? You have to load up the boat and send the gold.
Just like they did in the old days.
Yes.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Get a Brinks boat.
Yeah, it doesn't
send the money across.
And then you got pirates stealing the boats,
oh,
and
goodness.
It's just
every peril that you can imagine would be unleashed upon.
The hits just keep on coming.
Yeah.
So that's the real issue. You can't. It's so fascinating. I mean, once you get involved, well, why does the currency have to be on the FX market so Soros could do anything? Why couldn't they have a drachma that wasn't traded in? Oh, no. If it's not traded internationally, then you can't do anything with it.
That's right.
Right?
Well, that has a lot to do with it.
Okay.
You can't, to the extent that you need to import things to keep your country running.
Oh, what you do. Everybody needs that, right?
No, everybody doesn't need it.
Really?
No, I've been one of those
really?
In free trade.
Greece could just go it alone?
Why not?
Well, I don't know.
I don't know either. What would they be missing? Whatever they're missing, they would have to pay for that in some form that is acceptable to their international credit would not be that good.
Well, you ought to go work for them and help them out.
They don't want me.
They don't want you.
I would point out the fallacy of their ways. But if you look at if I was in Greece's position and I were the finance,
what would you do?
Exactly this.
Is this what we're talking about?
Yes.
Is that what you would do?
I'm not paying.
Yeah.
I'm not paying.
What are you gonna do? Invade me?
I'm not paying. Yeah. What do you want? I'm not paying. I'm not paying. I'm not saying I don't owe you, but I'm not paying.
Wow. Then what would you use for money?
I would just keep using the euro. They're going to keep bailing my banks out. What seems to be the trouble?
That's a debt.
The National Bank of Greece and the
I see. You would just hold on to the I'm not paying.
I'm not paying.
Because you're saying that they're not going to do anything.
They're not going to do anything. I'm not paying.
It's kind of like back in 08 and 09 when they didn't want the houses.
Now, looking exactly right. Exactly.
They didn't want the houses.
Come and take the house.
Yeah,
sure,
come and take
it.
They didn't want them.
I'm good. We're going to charge you. Okay, go ahead. Charge me. Ooh, that felt good. I'm charged now. So the four banks in Greece, which are really it's okay to say the government owes and the government owes and the government isn't paying and so forth.
Yeah.
But as long as a Greek person can go to his bank
Yeah.
and take out his money,
Yeah.
then he feels perfectly comfortable. He's comfortable. And the rest of Europe still makes euros good. And we talked last week about, what if they, of course, you can read the code, the letter, at the beginning of the serial number, and that will tell you which country issued.
Correct.
This
they have a
euro.
little number, and they tell you what. Yeah.
And they could say, okay, well, Greek euros are no good anywhere. And then suddenly, people all over Europe will be looking at their currency going, oh, wait a minute. These are no good. Well, I guess I should throw Italy's away, too, and Spain's.
Because they're next.
I want them all German. I want them all to be German and French.
Oh, boy.
And so, now you've thrown your big euro into...
a problem.
Yeah. You could say turmoil would be the...
Could you turmoil?
Yeah, everybody's looking at their euros before they're passing them. Oh, wait a minute. This is a Greek one. Here, take this. Oh, I don't want that.
Yeah.
And so it would create absolute...
What do you got? Italian euros? No, I don't want those because those guys are next.
Exactly, they're next. I don't want Spain. I'm not storing those. And then, I'm storing euros in my bank account.
Wow.
Wait a minute. Let me go to talk to my bank. How many of those euros in my bank account are Italian? How many of those are Spanish?
Oh, my goodness.
It would just be...
a mess.
It's like,
Yeah.
Anyway.
I got you.
I can make a bad
I got
joke.
you.
But...
So this really boils down to the whole fiat currency idea that you've talked about for years, confidence.
Yeah. So it's like
that's the only thing.
That's right. And the Greeks know, and the finance minister knows that they have the ECB and the IMF by the throat. Now, most people view this as the other way around, right? That Greece is the one up on the ropes.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Not so.
Not so. It's the ECB and the entire Euro system that's on the ropes, and it's Greece that put them there. So now, whatever...
I like this. Okay.
It's not a bad way to go.
Makes it more fun.
You're a Greek citizen. You go to the bank today and say, I think I'll withdraw my money. And the banks, not having it, turn to the ECB. The ECB says, sure, here you go, here you go, here you go, here you go. They need to do this. Now, I said they've already done about $80 billion. I think they need to do another 16 to 20 just in the short term. So we'll see what happens.
Oh.
But I think that they are going to hold out until the very end, until the ECB and the IMF make a kick-the-can-down-the-road deal that they can't refuse.
The only good deal for Greece is no deal.
Yeah.
No deal. Well, I'm sure they listen to the show. So...
the entire banking system of Greece is capitalized. I mean, if you strip away all the assets, the balance sheet, assets, liabilities, and then capital, the whole entire system has, paid in capital of about $15 billion.
That's it.
That is it.
Chump change.
And so, they could theoretically take out the entire banking system of Greece with, one or two little bad loans. So.
And if you're really confused... Russia, Gazprom, gives Greece money, which Greece uses to pay the IMF, which uses the Greek money to fund the loan to Kiev, which uses the IMF to pay the Russian Gazprom.
That's right.
So it's a flow of funds.
A nice circle.
The flow.
The flow of funds. Yeah.
Just in case you're confused about the flow of funds.
Yeah.
Okay, it is 15 minutes before the hour. So before this next break, here's something I've been kind of really thinking about, and because we're in the healing business, and you look at some of the numbers going on with the contemporary medical system, and some of the projections. It's just it's just
big pharma is in trouble.
But it's crazy the amount of money that the people are doing. Using to stay alive.
And they're counting on this revenue.
Oh, believe me, they're counting.
They're counting on this revenue, and so once that revenue stream starts to get cut.
Well, if that happens...
Well, I cracked open my sulfur can this morning. I didn't take that prescription that the doctor suggested I take.
Yep.
And a lot of other people are doing the same thing.
They are. There's no doubt. But there are a lot of people that are not.
Oh, right. So what do we have to do so that we step up the pressure on both parties?
And they're doing it.
Ooh.
They're doing it, boy.
Boy, aren't they
They're
doing
on
it.
people, The 5 largest commercial players are really... More and more I've been reading are looking at merging and acquiring one another in the healthcare business. Right. And a lot of people think that this whole thing, Obamacare, was all about the camel, using his camel getting nose under the tent.
That's right.
That we're going to get to a one-payer, super socialized medical system someday. Right. And you talk about some money being spent.
Oh, my. Yeah.
The pharmaceutical companies are going to be happy campers.
Well, the only thing they can do then is, make other forms the same way they did the monetary system, right? So right now, and just as Federal Reserve control over the monetary system, you could have other forms of money. So, I can have other forms of prescription or health care, what do we call them? Supplements, that's right. So
sure.
I decide to buy this particular supplement instead of this particular chemical prescription. And it's a competing currency, if you will.
Yeah, well.
So what you have to do in the end is outlaw the competing currencies.
That's what they do.
And give monopoly power to the issuing currency. That's the fiat part.
So it's the same thing.
It is exactly
the same thing. You just outlaw whatever.
Yes.
Vitamin C, whatever.
Unless it's prescribed by a doctor.
Yeah, unless it's prescribed by a doctor. Oh, my. I don't think they're going to get to colostrum anytime soon. It is a food, isn't it? Yes. Previously with Dr. Anthony Kleinsmith talking about colostrum.
Colostrum doesn't work that way. It has a 98.7% uptake into the body. It is one of the few things that crosses the blood-brain barrier. It doesn't even have what they call a lethal dose limit, like vitamin C or vitamin E and a lot of other nutritionals that are out there.
What does that mean, Dr. Kleinsmith, when you say it crosses the blood-brain barrier?
What I mean by that is it is one of the few things out there that Mother Nature created in a nano format, meaning the angstrom levels can be so small that they will actually work on and cross over into the brain and actually help cognitive functionality. So many things out there, you almost have to piggyback off of something else to get it to potentially cross that blood-brain barrier and see some of the benefits on the brain and cognitive functionality and that type of thing.
That's interesting. Nano by God. That's the way to do it. Colostrum. Lots of sizes to choose from. Any of these Thrival links, click and order right now. OneRadioNetwork.com. We call colostrum one of the big three. One is colostrum. The other one is One World Way. The other one is the raw meal, which is an amazing product in our store. You could live on these three guys, or girls, whatever they are, live on these three and just supplement with a few vegetables, maybe some nuts and seed if you want, and then every now and then have something fun like steak or fish or pasta. I don't know. I'm just working on a little diet for you, but I'm telling you, you can, these are powerful foods, super amount of nutrition, super amount of fats, amino acids, everything that you need, and they taste great, and you can get creative when you mix them with. So check out and play around with the big three and just add them to your diet. The One World Way, the colostrum, and the raw meal in our store, and I think you'll enjoy it. Hi, I am with Al Carter, the world's foremost authority on rebound exercise. Al, how is it possible? How can you do a lifetime warranty on a piece of equipment? I think that's pretty amazing to me.
Well, actually, we have been studying rebound exercise for quite a long time, and we have basically found out what falls apart and what we can keep. And we have just improved upon it to the point where rebound exercise now is something that we can actually say, hey, our equipment's going to last forever.
Forever. And that's really a mat or a spring or anything. You just call the equipment and you get it right back to them. It's the Rebound Air lifetime warranty. Anything that goes wrong, you're going to take care of them.
Yes.
It's the best one, we think. It is the best one, we think. Forget it. Don't say that. I have the wrong price on that commercial, so I have to cut them off. It is $319 delivered. Tax, title, license, the Rebound Air in 48 states. Live in Alaska, Hawaii, Canada. It's about $50 extra, so just email me, Patrick at OneRadioNetwork.com, and we will get you all set up. We'll figure out how to do it. Let's see. This was a nice thing we got in there. I got Andy's. Oh, man, I had a really cool thing about sulfur and can't find it. Oh, well. We get emails in all the time when I can find it. And if you like to try this sulfur and send in emails and say how good you're feeling, you can do it. Just go to oneradionetwork.com, click on the sulfur ad. This is our pure organic sulfur, and there are we ship in 2 1-pound containers for $79. If you're like a guy like Andy, you get 8 or 9 pounds at one time, and then you party it out and give it away to friends and things like that. If you like more than the 4 pounds or more, we give you a 10% discount. 8 or 9 pounds, we do 15% discount. So that's how that works. Email me, tell me where you live and how many pounds you like, and I'll send you the price and we'll work it out. And get some of this organic sulfur. So many benefits. It's probably the all-time ever pain reliever in the history of the planet, this sulfur. It brings oxygen to everything that hurts. Head hurt, take some sulfur. You got to drink plenty of water is the only real criteria with it. We don't give medical advice, but we have hundreds, if not, I don't know, could be 1,000 people now that wrote in, and people with the sulfur study are just looking cuter every day and looking younger. That's how it works.
We are listener supported. One Radio Network.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I got lost.
Talk to Patrick now. 888-663-6386. Or email patrick@oneradionetwork.com.
Don't you hate it when you get lost, Andy? Right?
You found yourself.
Did I find myself? Some say, this is good. Some say that this is the worst time in history to be invested in stocks. What say you?
Well, you got to have guts right now to be invested in stocks. And look where it is. It's at an all-time high.
But the reason is not because if you read Newsweek or The Economist or whatever, that things are rosy and good. The reason stocks are at 18,000 is because
the Federal Reserve has created trillions upon trillions of new dollars.
I didn't read that in the fine print in Newsweek magazine.
No.
I didn't read that.
They may have left that out.
They left that part out.
Where did all this extra money come from?
How does the money that the Federal Reserve Bank of New York can create by monetizing debt get down to the stock market?
Margin.
Okay.
Margin.
All
Broker
right.
loans.
Mm-hmm.
Broker loans.
Yeah,
So easy. I mean, it's easier than getting a mortgage, I'll tell you what.
So you can actually borrow money and buy 1,000 shares of IBM or Apple.
Yeah.
Really?
And they'll loan you the money
do.
Without even,
that's what they do.
Almost no application required. As long as you own the stock, they hold it. Yeah, they don't care. So margin debt.
And so that's how people can run up the stock market, because they don't have the money. They don't have the money. They don't have the money. I hate it when that happens. Okay, we talked to, we didn't talk to him. Somebody else talked to Jimmy Rogers 2 days ago, and here's what he says about the market.
Well, what I suspect will happen with the U.S. is that the U.S. will have some kind of correction somewhere along the line for whatever reason, and then everybody will call up after, I don't know, when the market goes down 9% or 13%. You make up the number. Everybody will call up Washington and say, oh, my gosh, you've got to save us. Civilization is at risk. You're going to ruin your reputation in our lives, in our world. You know, those people in Washington are bureaucrats and politicians. They're not terribly smart. And so they'll panic, they'll give up, and they'll come to the rescue. I don't know what they'll do. They'll do something to calm everybody down. And then I suspect the market will turn around and have another big rally. It, too, may go on to new highs. It could even turn into a bubble, depending on how panicked the people in Washington get. And then that will be the end. You know, the market will make its final top. That could take weeks or months, but then the market will make its final top, and that will be the end, and we will start having serious stock market problems worldwide.
Liquidity problems.
Well, you agree with Jimmy Rogers?
Oh, yeah. If you look at, if you just go back like to the dot-com bubble, what was that?
2000?
Yeah, 15 years ago.
15 years.
Okay. So in 2000, margin debt in the United States as a percentage of GDP was at an all-time high.
Okay, right at the top of the bubble.
At the absolute top of the bubble.
Yeah.
2.8% of GDP was margin debt.
2.8%. So people had borrowed 2.8% of GDP just to buy Uber or whatever.
Whatever. And we all know what happened after that.
It was ugly.
It was ugly.
Yeah, it was ugly.
And it collapsed to 1.2% by 2003. As they unwound all their margins, sold all their positions, drove the market down to unbelievable lows. And then, of course, it started creeping its way back until the height of the financial crisis, just before the Lehman moment, 2.62.
Oh, back up to 2.62% margin debt of GDP in 2008 before the Lehman moment.
And by 2009, it was down to 1.2.
Oh, I see a pattern here.
Do you? You want to guess where it is right now?
3%. Oh, my goodness.
3%.
You're kidding me.
3%.
Oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be fun.
Yeah,
3%. So 3% of GDP
is in margin
debt. And margin debt, again, is people that don't have the money that are buying stocks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
This could be ugly.
Well,
this could be ugly.
A debt to GDP ratio of 2.25, I believe, is considered really dangerous.
But just overall debt, you're just talking about margin debt.
Margin.
That's crazy.
Margin debt. Man. Margin debt. Yeah. Yeah. So we're in the 95th percentile. We're, it's never, ever been higher.
Wow.
Never. So we're at very dangerous levels.
So Jimmy Rogers was talking about it. So what are some black swans or some things that are going to transpire? Put on your Nostradamus hat to start this thing to. But the market could go back up. It could take a hit, and then, like Jimmy Rogers said, the Fed will come in, and then it'll go back up.
Yeah. Well, but if you track margin debt, first of all, many macro traders, these chart guys, like we haven't heard from Scott the trader for a while, but guys like him do pay attention to things like this, because if you make a graph of margin debt going back to, I don't care how far back you go, and track it to the stock market, the Dow Jones Industrial Average or the NYSE of any kind, you will find correlations and peaks and valleys that are just like they were tied together. So when easy money is available, they can borrow, and use it to buy stocks. They do. And so anything that turns that around, say increase in margin requirements or interest rate rise, anything like that would say, have an investor say, okay, well, now that margin debt to carry that stock is not such a good buy, I'm going to sell the stock. That is what kind of starts the ball rolling.
That's when it gets ugly.
Now when this bull run started, when the Fed was dumping money into the streets, if you recall, we talked about one of the discount brokerage firms was running the ad on the financial networks that says, you can borrow margin money from us at 2%, and we'll give you a list of stocks with a 5% dividend.
Well, yeah, who's not going to do that?
Right. National discount brokers. So you could buy a share of their stock. They were recommending this list of stocks that pay at least 5% dividend. So you get their money for 2%, and then you buy a stock that yields 5%. And, man, were people just doing it left and right. And now, of course, we've grown to the point back then, I think total margin debt, if you pull up the podcast, was somewhere in the $175 billion range. And now total margin debt is on the order of $525 billion. So, 3 times as much money chasing the same essentially amount of stock. You even have companies getting in on the act, issuing bonds, and then buying back their own stock.
Wow.
At the end of the day, all of this debt is hanging out there. And it either is paid or it's defaulted upon. And in the case of stocks, it's always the same way. Because the stocks are held, the company that holds them just sells you out. You don't even have a choice. So they just sell you out and send you a bill for the difference.
Can you say House of Cards? That's a nice Netflix show.
Good analogy.
Good analogy, yeah. So,
except that, again, the tendency of the central banks of the world is to react with infusions of cash. And much the same way as the ECB. So over the weekend, back to Greece.
Yeah.
Over the weekend, the banks are closed in Greece, right?
I think.
Yeah. But you think that stopped the Greek?
Oh no, they went to the ATM machines and there was armed guards at the ATM machines.
The worst job in the Greece right now is an ATM attendant because they took out $2 billion, like €10 at a time from Friday to Sunday.
$2 billion.
$2 billion. So now I understand the ECB is, even in the face again of all of this, here's another $2 billion for the banks in Greece. So while the government might seem to be having trouble negotiating with its creditors, the banks in Greece are having no trouble at all getting the ECB to continue to fund them. And it's curious to me that while the people of Greece, the government of Greece, is arguing over a $7 billion installment of the bailout. That's what all this is about, right? The IMF agreed to give them a bailout, and they're not going to give them the $7 billion until they agree to these certain austerity measures. That's what it's all about. That's what they're fighting about right
That's
now.
it.
The the IMF's supposed to give Greece $7 billion so that it can continue its operations, and it's not. And Greece is yelling and saying, well, if you're not going to give us the $7 billion, we're not going to be able to pay the $2 billion that we owe you, and so on and so forth. Meanwhile, in the back door, $80 billion, 80 billion euros
is going on.
Has been given to the banks in Greece. So we're not going to give you the $7 billion.
They've given $80 billion just to the banks.
Right. So we're not going to give you the $7 billion unless you agree to cut back on this and that and the other thing. But we're going to give $80 billion to your banks because of the crisis that we've initiated here over $7 billion. Does any of this make sense to you?
No.
Not to me either. So
it doesn't make.
The end game is that Greece has to be made to get its mind right. It has to have its economy, its social programs, and its tax system in line with the other nations of Europe. That's it.
That's it. That's what it's about. So the people of Greece, God love them, they're going to pay for all of this.
All of it.
Yeah. All of it.
And for the most part, when you have a country that issues its own money, and these sorts of events traditionally lead to a hyperinflationary blow-off. As people run, they take their money out of the banks can't meet the withdrawals, so now they sell their assets for pennies on the dollar, which further exacerbates the problem. It gets the snowball rolling downhill. But in this case, as never before in history, it would be like a state in the United States going into default. And so everyone in that state would go to the bank and withdraw their money, which would be coming from all the other states of the United States and not putting pressure on the Greek government at all. So this is what's going on in Greece. And as long as the people of Greece, again, can go into those banks and go to those ATMs and take their money out, you will not see the pressure that you see in a traditional bank run.
Now, they have put limits.
Yeah.
But not a lot.
Capital controls. Or they loathe. Yeah. The idea of capital control, if they start saying, you can only take so much, remember, it's just like we're looking at the serial number again. What do you mean? In Greece you can only take so much. Well, then I'm going to get on a plane and I'm going to fly. Yeah, I'm going to, do what I have to do what I have to do. I need to get my money out of the bank. And, if they're doing this in Greece and I'm in Italy, are we next? I'm going to start pulling my money out of the bank. So the unintended consequences of capital controls, very bad. Well, what kind of limit is €3,000 a day anyway?
3,000, that's not a lot.
No, but you can bet that anybody with money in the bank that wasn't taking it out last week is now taking it out this week.
3,000 a day.
Yeah, 3,000 a day. Absolutely. Absolutely.